We're talking now to Dan Seligman from Pop Montreal. Can you tell me a little bit about the showcase tonight?
Sure. So the showcase tonight is in conjunction with our good friends and festival partner M for Montreal and Montreal. We're two Montreal-based festival professional events that happen in Montreal. Our festival's in September. Their festival's in November. So we team up in Austin at South by Southwest to produce a showcase event with mostly Montreal-based artists, emerging artists to perform at South by Southwest. So this year we have 10 bands playing, starting from 8 p.m. until 1 in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing, is this the first time you've had a showcase like this at South by
No,
Southwest?
we've been doing them for almost 15 years now. I started coming to South by Southwest about 25 years ago, but around 15, maybe a bit more, we've been doing showcases, different parties. And the last 6 or 7 years have been at Swan Dive. It used to be called Canada House. This year it's not sponsored by the Canadian government, but the Quebec faction, which is us, are doing the showcase.
And Montreal has, this really thriving music scene.
Yeah.
Would you say that's also true now? Because certainly I remember when Arcade Fire and other artists were winning Grammy Awards and everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Grammy winner on our showcase, but you never know. It could happen in several years. We have an amazing band called Ribbon Skirt. They're like a kind of post-punk pop band, just signed with a great label called Mint Records out of Vancouver. Opening the show is Clarel, who's an amazing soul singer. Another artist, a TikTok star, Maryse, is kind of like a hyper-pop dance artist. Population 2, or francophone punk band. So there's a lot of still amazing music happening in Montreal. Montreal has a great scene. It's got its own style, its own flavor, and it's fun to work with bands, to bring them down here, to get them to perform for some of the time it's their first opportunity to showcase in front of an international audience.
And I notice you're including both francophone bands and I guess anglophone bands on the bill as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reflection of the scene in Montreal. It's a bilingual city. There's a lot of overlap between the two cultures. Obviously, this being a showcase event in an international environment in America, the market for francophone music is not as pronounced as English music, so the majority of the artists performing are anglophones, but there's still a couple Franco bands.
Given the current administration and their threats of tariffs against Canada, did you have any misgivings about coming down here this year?
I think there was a bit of a pause, definitely it's a concerning situation. There are politicians who are telling Canadians to not come into the States, to exercise your boycott power economically. A lot of Canadians come into the States for vacation or to shop or whatever it is. So I think it's definitely a concern for everyone. I think Canadians feel it more than Americans. I think there's so much crazy stuff happening with the Trump administration. The Canadian tariff potential war is lower down on the list for Americans who are concerned about the Trump administration, and Elon Musk, and all the political chaos happening right now. But I think it's something that we thought about. As I said, one of the presenting sponsors for the event decided to withdraw the Canada House. So usually they're for 3 or 4 days during South by Southwest, Swan Dive becomes Canada House. All the provincial music bodies put on parties. There's more of a big deal. And this year they decided not to do it. But since we had already committed to coming and we already had our funding in place, and we didn't want to let the bands down, we decided to go through with it, and we'll see what happens. I mean, there's so much connection between the two countries, and most people have friends or family or business associations in America, and I think the majority of Americans don't want these tariffs. Obviously, Canadians don't want them, so hopefully cooler heads will prevail, and we'll be able to have an integrated social and cultural economy.
Certainly, there are a lot of Americans who didn't vote for this and who, feel bad about it. What would you say to them?
I would say to fight for your rights, for your political rights, and to vote the Republicans out of power any chance you can. But it'll be a difficult, 2 to 4 years, I think, because they control the Senate and the White House and the Congress. So I know, people are protesting, lawyers are currently, fighting in the courts. So I think it's important for American democracy that people don't give up hope, and they're aware of the situation, because no one wants a fascist takeover of a free and democratic country.